Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2024 release Die Alone, and I'll tell you right now, it's a zombie film. Typically, I'm not into zombie films because it is a genre that's been beaten to death. The genre itself resembles The Walking Dead, just mindless, slowly shambling, not great. But every now and then there are films that have their own unique take on things, like Die Alone. And so I would recommend it, but you can wait until the end of this to find out what my overall rating of it is out of 5 stars with half stars in play. Also, real quick, I want to take the opportunity to say if you are not supporting my channel yet and would like to, thumbs up on this video to help me with the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe, that's always helpful. There are memberships if you want to pitch in a little bit monetarily. There's a link in the description. You can find out information about them, and you can hit the notification bell button, and then you'll know when I'm putting up new videos. Anyway, done with that. Die Alone is written and directed by Lowell Dean, who's done Wolf Cop, Another Wolf Cop, and Dark Match. I've seen the first Wolf Cop. Can't remember if I've seen the second one, but I really enjoyed the first one. The guy who played the Wolf Cop in at least the first one, since I know I've seen that one, he shows up in this film and does a good job, has an interesting character. Also, the big name in this film is Carrie-Anne Moss, who does a phenomenal job. It's probably not a big surprise. She's always been a really great actor. She not only does a great job with her acting in this, but she's playing a very interesting character, and that always helps as well. And there are a lot of interesting characters in this film, which is one of the great strengths of it, and one of the things that separates it from all those other crappy zombie films that just keep showing up. This is a Canadian film, and I rented it through Fandango at home for $6.35, and that is with tax. So not a whole lot to pay for a pretty decent time. Quick synopsis, it focuses on a main character who has amnesia, and he comes upon a woman who's played by Carrie-Anne Moss, who ends up being very nice. After being a little bit standoffish in the beginning, is very nice, starts, taking him in. They start kind of living together, but then, there's zombie apocalypse situation. There are other people who end up coming around, and it becomes this thing of other people's motives. And it truly is like a lot of zombie films nowadays, where it's not so much about the zombies themselves. It's about the people who are left after the zombie apocalypse, and kind of how they get along with each other, how they mess with each other or don't mess with each other, and how they kind of try to survive with all the zombieism around them. So really, you could have not many zombies or no zombies really in this film and have a very similar film still. But that's a good thing, because it means the story stands on its own. You don't really need the zombies to tell the story so much. But that's kind of all I want to say about that. Don't want to give too much away, because I would recommend checking this out. The opening scene definitely hits with impact. It grabs your attention. It makes you very interested, not only in this character immediately, which is super helpful. You get drawn into this person very, very easily, and you're kind of like, I'm rooting for this person. I hope they don't die at the end of this film, but, we'll see. But the beginning is a very strong way to start. It's a very bold way to start, in my opinion. But I also think maybe it wasn't needed so much. I think they could have had another scene that had similar impact to it, but not have it be so spoilery, because it's not super spoilery, but it's a little bit spoilery. And I was kind of like, I don't know why they would do this. I mean, it's one heck of a way to start a film, but I was also like, I don't know why they would do this. But it doesn't matter as much when you go through the rest of the film. So, slight spoilery. It's shot in an interesting way. There are lots of very unique angles. So obviously it's well directed. It has pretty nice cinematography, which, those types of things are always very helpful for when there are scenes that maybe are a little more on the talky side, that maybe go a little bit too long, which this film has some of those, but it's not too much. And pacing-wise, for the most part, I think it's pretty solid with its pacing, so you don't get too many of those scenes where you're just like, okay, let's wrap this up, thankfully. Musical choices are pretty good. Really big fan of the music that they end up using in this. Score is good too, but the other musical pieces that they end up injecting in this film end up working out really, really well and help with impact on certain scenes in certain ways. And you'll know what I'm talking about if you've seen it, or you'll know what I'm talking about if you go and watch it. And if you do that, and you want to comment, you can comment, and we can talk spoilers in the comments just so people know. Go ahead. The characters are interesting. Like I was saying before, a lot of interesting characters in this film. And that's one of the big things you need. Not only do you need characters who seem unique, you need characters with actual depth. And there are some really good characters with real depth. And there's good character development that ends up happening in this film. And that's obviously what drives the film forward and drives the interest of the audience forward. So that is key. Also, the zombie design is cool. It's not your traditional straightforward zombie. And I like that. I love the fact that they didn't, because the focus is a different aspect of the story and not as much of the zombies. They could have just been like, okay, you know, these are just your typical zombies with typical zombie rules, but the situation of how it came to be a zombie apocalypse is a bit different, and how the zombies operate is a bit different, and I do appreciate those types of touches. So thumbs up on that one. It definitely has a bit of a Memento feel to it because of the main character having amnesia. He keeps having these issues where, you know, he'll either pass out or he is having kind of like these memory flashes. So for that reason, it feels very Memento. And it was really funny to me because I was like, man, this feels so much like Memento when I was watching it. And I was like, oh, that's really funny because Carrie-Anne Moss is in Memento as well. So yeah, it's just very weird that she's in these two films that feel a bit similar. Some of the dialogue is a bit cringe. For the most part, it's fine, but there are these moments where you're just kind of like, ooh, that dialogue, that's not hitting well. Maybe needed another pass on the revisions for the script just for that reason. But for the most part, it's fine. You just have these certain moments that really stand out where you're just like, oh, those lines don't work so well. And it's unfortunate because for those moments, it kind of like takes you out of the experience of the film, unfortunately. But yeah. Douglas Smith's performance is up and down. Everyone else is consistent. Douglas Smith, if people didn't remember him, what I know him most for is he played the character of Ben in the show Big Love that was on, at that time, HBO, with Bill Paxton in it. Great film. But his performance is very up and down. Everyone else does a really good job. He's kind of up and down. He has these moments where he's super strong, but then he has these moments where he's really faltering in what he's delivering. So I don't know what was going on there, but I don't know. He gets outshined by everyone else, kind of. Not consistently, but in those certain scenes where I'm saying he's kind of like faltering, he really gets outshined by other characters, and it's also a tough situation too, because if he's not fully up to par in a scene where he's with Carrie-Anne Moss, who is great, it makes him look even worse. So that's kind of unfortunate. Where they take the story is very interesting and unique for a zombie film, and that is what got me. That is what hooked me. That is ultimately what made me feel like this film actually is worth watching, even though it's a zombie film. Because typically if someone says to me, hey, I got this zombie film I want to recommend to you, I'm always like, okay, tell me about it a little bit, without spoiling it, I guess. But most likely I'm not going to watch it because it's a zombie film, unless there's something super unique about it. And I think this does that. I think it's very unique. I will say that the ending is a little bit too drawn out for me. Actually, a little moderately too drawn out. I'll say that. It's moderately too drawn out, but it is good nonetheless. I think it could have been even better and had even more impact if it would have been shaved down some to be a little more focused, a little more succinct. And because I'm always looking, especially for films like this, I'm always looking for that moment where like they get you into the ending, it doesn't overstay its welcome, and then it kind of like pops you with something really impactful and leaves you with it real quick, and doesn't have something after that impact to just like start coming down and making you feel like, oh, okay, well now I'm seeing more of this film, but I'm not left with that feeling of the big impact. Like leaving people with that huge impact moment is, in my opinion, always the best way to go. But anyway, they have that at the end. It's just they have stuff after that, and it seems unnecessary, and it kind of kills the vibe by the end of the film. But overall, I did enjoy this film. I would give it 3.5 out of 5 stars. I do recommend it. And like I said, if you want to talk about it, put it in the comments, like, subscribe, all that stuff, memberships, whatever. But thank you so much for taking your time to watch this. And until next time, keep it brutal.